Welcome to Hero Club.
I'm Nick Williams.
And I'm George Primavera.
George and I started playing Dungeons & Dragons with our buddies in college, and we haven't stopped since. Even when we lived on opposite coasts, I would Skype in George on the TV in the living room of my apartment,
while I would DM from the floor of my bathroom so as not to wake up my roommate. When I finally came out to Los Angeles, we started playing with our friends right away.
And when we'd inevitably tell other people about the ultimate betrayals and daring heroics that happened in our games, we realized that they were just hearing a jumbled mess instead of the cinematic blockbuster memories that were in our heads. We wanted to show people how fun and immersive D&D can be, especially those who had never played.
And to do that, we record a full game like normal around the table and then painstakingly cut it down from 4 hours to a clean, math-free episode, so you can experience our memories the way we do.
Just like in a real game, nothing is ever written or planned out ahead of time with the players. The only things we add are music and sound effects.
I am the Dungeon Master. I build the world and the framework for an adventure. The players, like Nick, must then journey through the obstacles I set before them, rolling a 20-sided die and adding character-specific bonuses to see if they succeed. If they beat the number I have in my head, then their action is successful. If not, it is a failure, and there may be consequences. We try to follow the rules of Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition as close as we can, but as the Dungeon Master, what I say goes, and there are some things I like to do differently.
Each season is its own contained story, so find one that sounds interesting to you and start from the top. And hey,
welcome to the club.
Hero Club presents Brand's Bargain. Chapter 6. The Island.
I've a proposition for ye creatures on my killing floor, whose bones would soothe my children as they teethe. Ye can keep this grave to dig, or ye can join my hempen jig, where you'll be legendary ere ye live to breathe. So sails up, tails high, get down and let fly, legendary ere we live to breathe. And when a beast my ship becomes, when rogue waves soak the powder bombs, and ye can't find a weapon to unsheath, ye dash their brains upon the rocks, and tow what's left back to my docks, where you'll be legendary ere ye live to breathe. So sails up, tails high, get down and let fly, legendary ere we live to breathe. Creatures, when ye meet the queen, the raven one is what I mean. Tell that tramp ye still can't leave. Lose your class and lose your name, lose your treasure and lose your game. But you'll be legendary from the ocean to the aviary. Sails up, tails high, get down and let fly, legendary ere we live to breathe. Sails up, tails high, monster storm, look 'em in the eye. We're legendary ere we live to breathe. Even Gills had better heed. Sails up, tails high, get down and let fly, legendary ere we live to breathe. Sails up, tails high, get down and let fly, legendary ere we live to breathe.
After escaping the clash of two titans, Brand and his reduced crew took Snag's ghost ship to the Dread Crab's nesting grounds. Plan was to ambush it where it sleeps, but that's the thing about going off the map. You never know what's waiting for you out there.
The storm clouds above are roiling away. The water calms slightly. Our crew of criminals, supervised by their blood-soaked, disheveled captor-captain, float towards a mystery island on the horizon. aboard a ghostly green ship, the entire deck of which is absolutely covered in glittering gold and brilliant shining gems. The sun peaks above the horizon. Everyone squints their eyes, as they are for the first time in several days illuminated by bright sunlight. Exhaustion runs deep within all of your bones. The ghostly crew rows steadily, slowly pushing on towards their mystery destination. Gertrude Hillsby, the small mouse woman and the only surviving member of the hempen jig besides the prisoners and Captain Brand, sits very sadly on one of the rowing benches, half-heartedly assisting one of the ghosts with a single hand, staring off into the middle distance.
Snag stands, one hand on the helm, attempting to appear very captainly and focused, but his eyes betray him, filled with dread.
A tired Flintbeak has found a seat near the oarsman and casually dances his fingers over the gold pieces littering the ground at his feet. He whistles to himself quietly, finding anything to pass the time.
One of the ghosts from behind you pipes up.
What's that? I love that song.
A rooster fellow, wreathed in ghostly green light, looks on with amazement.
First time I've heard it in I don't know how long.
Just songs that were sung to me when I was a boy.
Aye, when I was a boy.
How long you been here, if you don't mind me asking?
I don't know much about time no more, sir. A long while.
Quite a fate.
The rooster responds with a wistful look
Aye, I suppose I had it coming.
and stares out into the ocean, returning with a vigor to his rowing.
Towards the back of the boat, Celestyna settles down into a ball next to Tibby. How are you feeling?
I've been better.
Tibby takes a deep breath and concentrates. She focuses on her wounds, and slowly, new skin begins to appear over the slashes.
Tibby regains 4 health points, bringing her up to 72 points of health.
Celestyna looks around her to see that no one is listening. I notice the mark isn't on your back. How did you do it?
Oh, the brand? I saw a friend in need, and we struck a deal. It was that big butterfly. Remember that one?
I remember. So now, you're free.
Tibby, flashing through your mind, is the image of the enormous butterfly being dragged underneath the surf by a wretched, enormous claw. And something strikes you. You have not heard a voice in your head in several hours. It's been unnaturally quiet. Nor have you smelled any kind of message borne aloft on pheromones. You are truly, at least within your own body, alone.
It's quite lonely. In here?
Tibby gestures towards her head.
How do you handle it?
Celestyna, make an insight check.
14.
Tibby's laughter unnerves you as usual.
Yes, it is very hard to be alone. But I don't know if you've considered this, but something tells me if Brand is gone, so will his marks be gone.
I was thinking the same thing. I'm gonna kill him.
That seems wise. And with a great sigh, Celestyna tucks into herself and sleeps.
Tibby, exhausted from the battle between 2 titans, rests her head on Celestyna's flank.
Both Celestyna and Tibby take a long rest in the bright, warm sunlight.
Flintbeak approaches Snag, still standing at the helm. So, we gonna talk about what happened back there?
Which part?
Well, there was that bit where you almost left without us.
Snag looks at Flintbeak, and you can tell he's really searching for what to say. I'm, sorry about that. It was the captain, you see.
Both of your gazes momentarily turn to Captain Brand, who was standing stock still, arms folded behind his back, at the bow of the ship. staring towards the destination.
Imagine he did away with those priests.
Oh, I do not think we'll ever see that turtle again.
You know, it makes me wonder more and more. What's he doing here? You know, I thought this was his mission, but seems there was someone else pulling the strings. We don't know why we're here. Wonder what the good captain did.
I think that there's a chance that in the eyes of the crown at least, he's as big a freak as we all are.
Well, there's some comfort in that, I guess. Although, I don't know if the eyes of the crown can see all the way out here at sea.
Snag eyes the blood on Bran's uniform. Well, not anymore at least.
Both of you make a perception check at disadvantage due to your exhaustion.
13.
17.
Flintbeak, you notice Gertrude Hillsby has gone still at her position at the oars. Her head drooped low.
Concerned, Flintbeak moves towards her. Oi, Hillsby! You still with us?
She slowly opens her eyes and looks up at you.
Sorry. I must have drifted off. Oh, I don't feel very well.
Should I alert the captain?
Oh, no need to concern yourself about me.
Oi, yo! Brand! You might want to come look at what's left of your crew.
It takes a moment for Brand to realize he's being addressed.
Brand! Brand!
Yes, what is the matter?
This little lady's not so hot on her feet right now.
Gertrude Hillsby collapses onto the floor, shivering.
Brand slowly makes his way over to her.
Both Brand and Flintbeak roll a medicine check with disadvantage.
8.
16.
Flintbeak, you are at a loss. But Captain Brand, you, knowing that Gertrude Hillsby is very old, first make the assumption that the journey must simply be too much for her. This may even be partially correct. But as you lean down to try to get a pulse, you look down towards her legs, which you notice are steeped in black sludge.
Brand looks exhausted, but for a moment his crazed focus wanes, and you see a look of genuine sadness. I knew it was a mistake to bring her along. Not much else to do now but make her comfortable. That's all we can really give her at this point.
Snag clops up, crouches over Miss Hillsby, and puts his hand over her eyes, attempting to spare the dying woman any more discomfort.
A soft turquoise glow appears underneath your hand, and suddenly Miss Hillsby's short, quick breaths slow and steady and become regular. She still appears unconscious.
Come on, lass. You're too young to go. You were only born a few days back.
A very slight smile appears at the corner of Miss Hillsby's lips as she continues to breathe slowly and steadily. As Brand returns to his post, and Snag maintains watch over Miss Hillsby, once in a while as her breath begins to quicken again, re-administering the easing spell. The day passes in silent contemplation. Night begins to fall as the sun dips below the other horizon line. Tibby and Celestyna are just beginning to stir.
As the sea turns orange by the light of the setting sun, Flintbeak slowly approaches Brand. Oi, I know you had reason not to tell us everything along the way here, but as of today you got no one left other than us. You might as well tell us what it is we're going to do right now, because the only way any of us get out of here alive is if we have all the information.
Flintbeak, make a persuasion check at disadvantage due to your exhaustion.
11.
This comes out a bit more brashly and accusatory than you mean it to. You see Brand's brow twitch with irritation.
I once told you that thinking that I am foolish is a mistake. Is that what this is? Do you think me a fool?
Flintbeak, make an insight check, again at disadvantage.
3.
Brand's penetrating gaze intimidates you.
I've learned not to underestimate anyone. Even the fairest of beasts might be hiding some deadly claws. And I'm certainly not here to underestimate you. I just want some information.
I will give you what is plain to see. That creature is hurt. And what do hurt creatures do? They go and rest. We are trying to get to its home before it does.
But then what? What's your end game here? Glory? Fame? The preservation of the great nation of Emporia? What are you really doing here, Brent?
I see that my tactics perhaps have worked too well. If I said to save the world, would you even believe me? If I said that the brands on you are all false and there was only one that worked, would you believe me? If I said that if I died, you all go down with me, would you believe me? I'm sorry for being so good at my job, but would you believe any answer I gave you at this point?
Flintbeak, make an insight check with disadvantage.
12.
You are at a loss. Bran's words twist around your brain.
Exhausted and shaken, Flintbeak backs away and makes ready to sleep.
Snag silently beckons Merdina and has her rest on Miss Hillsby's head, occasionally recasting that spell, before walking back towards the helm of the ship and retaking his position.
On your side suddenly appears the ghostly figure of your father, Lachlan Gilroy Taggish the Elder.
Look at you, Junior. Going soft on that old bag. You always had too much of your mother in you.
I wonder what she would say if she could see you now. All crusty and devoured by your own greed.
I'm sure she would feel right terrible to see me so. That's part of her weakness.
No, I think she'd laugh. Laugh at the parody of yourself that you've become. Just a greedy old man.
The parody that I've become? Look at yourself, Junior. You're a spitting image of me, surrounded by the treasure we can never have for ourselves, surrounded by people who didn't give a roach's rump about you, and rightly so, you didn't give one back to them. Remember, boy, the second your act stops baiting is the second you take my place, and you know what? I cannot wait to watch you die, so you can see the path I tread before you, and realize you've been walking it your all pathetic life.
Why don't you get back to your post, sailor? You're needed on the front oar.
A derisive smile and a mocking bow.
Aye, Captain.
Celestyna and Tibby, you awake just as the sky goes dark.
Your fur is very soft. Thank you.
It was nothing.
After a long rest, both Tibby and Celestyna's hit points are restored to full.
As Flintbeak goes to replace Celestyna on the floor, he grabs her arm for a moment. Hillsby's not looking so good. Collapsed while you were asleep.
What?
Just all you should know. I don't think she has much longer.
We'll see. Celestyna lumbers over to Mrs. Hillsby.
And Flintbeak curls up on the floor.
Merdina is softly fluttering her wings on top of Miss Hillsby's forehead. Once in a while, a little turquoise pulse of light regulates her quickening breath.
Celestyna kneels down over Mrs. Hillsby and hovers her paw. She gently lowers it onto Mrs. Hillsby's chest and whispers, "Ochieschi."
There is a beat as Celestyna leans over Miss Hillsby. Merdina flutters away into the sky, and the black sludge around Miss Hillsby's limbs curdles and evaporates into the air like gas. Miss Hillsby's eyes flutter open.
Oh, I must have dozed off.
There she is.
Is it night already?
You took a rest for a while. For your aching bones. You are better now.
She slowly grabs your arm and steadies herself. Getting to her feet, gives your arm a soft squeeze.
I hope you escaped this place. And I think I need a more restful sleep.
She slowly steps over to a sleeping Flintbeak, sits upright against the ghostly wall of the longship, closes her eyes, and takes a restful sleep.
Tibby, feeling fully recovered and energized, takes a look around the ship for the first time. Her eyes scan the remaining members of her crew and come up wanting. She approaches Snag at the helm.
I'm just wondering, where's the chef?
He got dragged below the surf by that beastie, right before coming for you.
Tibby's black eyes twitch.
Oh, Tibby. You couldn't save him. You never could.
Yikes. Well, that's me. I'm off to bed.
As Snag disappears below decks, pulling a ghostly hatch upward and descending, Tibby, you realize that you've been left with the worst voice of all. Your own. Feelings of guilt, long forgotten, begin to well up within you.
Maybe you are just a puppet, Tibby.
Celestyna, make a perception check.
25.
Brand still stands at the bow of the ship, unblinking, both hands now no longer behind his back, but gripping the bow. Clutched in his right hand, a pocket watch. He faces away from you, and you detect that he is attempting to slow his own breathing. Make an insight check.
12.
Brand is shaking, almost imperceptibly, but you do not know why. And then, all at once, that vibration stops. And he rights himself, and his hands return behind his back, the pocket watch disappearing into his vest. The ghostly ship continues forward. You look up and see an island rising out of the water, sheer cliffs that must be hundreds of feet tall. Make a survival check.
25.
Even in the darkness, you're able to discern the differentiation in the pattern of the water and the black sludge atop it. And as you follow this pattern, very far away, like a black dot on an immense canvas, you see a dark spot in the cliff, a small cave where water is lapping in and out of, perhaps only 8 or 9 feet high. And it is through here that the black water is coming from.
Celestyna approaches Tibby at the helm and nods towards the cave opening. Right there. That is where all of this blackness is coming from. I don't trust the captain. Maybe we should look at it. I just don't know whether he should be involved in that mission or not.
Miss Celestyna, you're so fun. I can take a look.
Those things work? She points to her slimy wings.
The glistening wings suddenly flap outwards. They are ready for flight.
Last one, there's a rotten egg.
And Tibby launches herself into the air.
Brand turns around as you leave the deck and watches you intently, but says nothing. Tibby, as you fly across the ocean ahead of the longship, it takes you several hours to reach this cave opening. Eventually, as you reach the cliff's edge and the waves intensify around the rocky surface around you, you see that the opening for this cave is extremely wide, about 80 or 90 feet, but very shallow, only about 10 feet from the water's surface. Within this cave is utter darkness. Make a perception check.
Botch?
An empty cave that appears to be a safe egress for you within the island. The mystery of the cave unnerves you slightly, but based on what you've seen prior, there is no outward danger here.
Tibby, satisfied with her reconnaissance, flies back towards the ship.
Approaching morning, Tibby lands deftly on the deck next to Celestyna, Brand staring at her.
What have you found, Tibby?
Not much, sir. The way seems clear.
That cave. Big enough for a boat?
Big enough for this one.
Then I think that is where we should go.
The crew continues to row towards the island. The sun peeks its way back over the eastern horizon, illuminating the sky with a dull gray dawn. The waves intensify. The rowers begin to kick up with a rousing song as they approach.
On my count, you mongrels. 3, 4.
Perk your ears and still your beaks. Hold your tongue when the captain speaks. Storms are blowing, winds give chase. Tie yourself to the mast and brace.
Can you swim, swabby? Hold on tight. Ride them waves all day and night. If you go over, drive for shore or drift on down to the ocean floor.
Write your last, dear lovely mates. Scald that ink, though it's too late. Drink the rum until it's gone. You'll feel courage for too long.
Can you swim, swabby? Hold on tight. Ride them waves all day and night. If you go over, drive for shore or drift on down to the ocean floor.
Send your sonnet o'er the side. Steel your heart for a hellish ride. Roll the cannons to and fro. Some of us are bound to go.
Can you swim, swabby? Hold on tight. Ride them waves all day and night. If you go over, drive for shore or drift on down to the ocean floor.
For the first time in a long time, Flintbeak awakes to the sound of music, smiling as he does.
And then the boat, slowly, carefully, enters the dark cave. The darkness immediately quells the music. Even the ghostly figures look around in awe at the absolute pure blackness around them. Tibby, you are glowing a very soft pink. You cast bright pink light around you in about a 10-foot radius, illuminating a small section of this boat in an eerie rosy glow. Celestyna, your nocturnal eyes adjust to this immense darkness. Make a survival check.
26.
The walls of this cave are strangely shaped. For a cave of this nature, it would be normal for the walls to be beaten smooth by the eroding surf. And yet in this cave, there are odd outcroppings, lumps and rocks that seemingly shouldn't even be there based on the pattern of these moving waves. As you look closer, you see that this weird lumpy surface covers the entirety of the cave, walls and ceiling.
Tibby, come with me. Celestyna walks to the edge of the boat and takes a closer look at the walls.
Make a nature check.
25.
Sticking to the surfaces of this cave in its entirety, dark, black foam. You peer closer to the foam, and as Tibby's rosy glow illuminates it, a silhouette of something moves within. A tiny, black, toothpick-sized spear shoots out of the foam and thuds into the ghostly wood. Suddenly, the foam around this point begins to ripple, and more silhouettes from within it begin to shift with spidery long legs about the size of a hockey puck. And then all of the foam begins to bubble, and as the ship continues to row forward, there is suddenly a torrent of tiny little black toothpick-sized spears showering the boat. Everybody except Snag, make a dexterity save.
21.
22.
15.
Everybody quickly dives for underneath the rowing benches. The ghosts look on bemused. Tibby, you retreat within your plate armor, and you hear thunking needles smashing against it. Your mastery with heavy armor means that these darts cannot penetrate your defenses. Miss Hillsby does not make it underneath the bench in time, crawls underneath with 5 or 6 of these little needles in her left arm, and all of a sudden, black bile begins to spill out over her bottom lip. She is reduced to 0 hit points, and she begins making death saving throws.
Acting quickly, Flintbeak first grabs and downs one of the potions hanging at his waist, drinking the potion of sagacity and increasing his intelligence score by 3. His mind now a little sharper, Flintbeak's blood begins to rush, and as his hands crackle with electricity, 3 motes of dancing light shoot up away from him and towards the walls of the cave.
The cave is illuminated. You see spidery crab creatures floating within black foam, not quite developed yet, still growing. And as the light brightens the cave, one piece of foam directly above you pops, and a 2-foot-long crab drops onto the deck, seems to bubble and shriek, and then it immediately twitches, goes still, and dies on the deck. Make a nature check.
18.
You see that many portions of this crab not only are not developed, but are developing incorrectly. It would appear that the black sludge has made the birth of these monstrosities unviable. They will attack you from within the eggs, but as soon as they breach, their lifespan is instantaneous.
These things are all doomed for death. As soon as they're to the eggs, they're gone. Keep your heads low and try to hatch these things. And Flintbeak takes a defensive position, hoping to dodge any incoming attacks.
Celestyna reaches into her vest pocket and pulls out the small vial of ointment that will protect her from poison given to her by Nybert the albatross. She proceeds to rub it all over her furry body. Just as she finishes covering herself, Celestyna whispers, "Niech jolly," and her entire body, including her harpoon, become invisible.
As Celestyna's form seems to camouflage amidst the green, rose, and electric blue light all melding together in the darkness of this cave. A small window in the side of the ghostly vessel slides open. Snag pokes his head out to see what's going on.
Oh, salt! Snag ducks his head back in, and you see a turquoise light explode from inside as he throws an orb of forceful blue energy towards the wall of eggs.
Roll an attack.
16.
Hit.
The sphere of seemingly energized water bursts on the wall of eggs, and small offshoots of energy cover a large swath around the impact point, doing forceful damage to each egg within a 5-foot radius.
As this magical water eliminates the foam upon contact, little half-formed poisoned crabs drop into the surf with sickening plops.
Snag ducks back into full cover inside the ship's hull.
Captain Brand pulls out his pistol and ducks down to dodge the incoming onslaught.
How fascinating.
Tibby, still retracted within your plate armor, you see Miss Hillsby begin to seize. She fails one death saving throw. Everybody except for Snag Taggish, make a dexterity save with advantage.
30.
25.
14.
All of you perfectly duck underneath the ore benches. Tibby, still sticking out slightly, feels a couple of these needles rocket against her plate armor, but again, withdraws herself perfectly so as to avoid any of the blows. Meanwhile, several more darts impact on Miss Hillsby's form. She fails another death saving throw.
Abandoning her cover, Tibby runs toward Miss Hillsby and stands over her, using her body to shield her.
Oh! Now the fun has begun.
Miss Hillsby coughs black ooze into your face.
Thank you.
Tibby raises her arms and fires 3 fiery eldritch blasts towards the wall.
Roll 3 attacks.
16, 28, 25.
3 hits as 3 sections of this wall erupt into flame. Crabs by the hundreds seem to plop into the water uselessly, and for a moment, the cave is illuminated. You are about 100 feet from a very tiny pinprick of light that would imply that around a corner, there is an exit to this horrific cave.
Flintbeak pushes off from the deck, flying towards the intersection of wall and ceiling, attempting to get as close to as many crabs as he can. Lightning still pulsing at his fingertips, and now grinning. Flintbeak's entire body lights up with lightning, and a thunderclap echoes out from him, connecting against any crab within 5 feet.
An entire section of cave erupts with arcing lightning, and eggs within this range are evaporated.
Flintbeak then tries to fly ahead of the ship, hoping to incur more fire upon himself.
Celestyna returns to visibility. She goes over to Tibby and Mrs. Hillsby.
Tibby, go to the helm and drive us towards that light, out of this cave. I've got the mouse.
Aye.
Celestyna reaches down and picks up Mrs. Hillsby
How many times I'm going to save you?
and whispers,
Oh, chich.
and neutralizes the poison in Mrs. Hillsby, and darts off towards the hatch to leave Mrs. Hillsby under cover.
As the hatch opens, you see a cowering Snag Taggish.
Shut the Sultan door!
Catch! And Celestyna tosses Mrs. Hillsby towards Snag.
Miss Hillsby lands in Snag's lap, no longer poisoned, but still on the brink of death.
Oh, lass, what have they done to you? Snag places his palm on her forehead again and spares her once more.
Her breathing steadies, her eyes rocket open, she expels a bit more black vomit, and rolls weakly off of Snag's lap.
Just stay Sultan out of harm's way for 4 minutes!
Don't need to tell me twice.
Snag returns to his covered position.
Brand continues to dodge, watching the spectacle with awe.
Celestyna, Flintbeak, both of you make a dexterity saving throw.
21.
25.
Darts, embedding themselves in the ghostly wood of the ship, completely miss Celestyna as she dances out of the way, moving much faster than her enormous form would imply she is capable of. Flintbeak, meanwhile, in the narrow space between water and cave ceiling, banks left, right, and twists in a barrel roll to avoid showering needles. The boat approaches the egress of the cave. Meanwhile, Tibby holds the helm, completely wreathed in plate armor, ducking her head inside of it to avoid another shower of needles. It looks like the entrance of the cave is nearly clear, as Flintbeak has already done a tremendous amount of damage to the crab eggs around, but still, some remain.
With one hand on the helm and the other outstretched in front of her, Tibby fires off 3 more fiery blasts.
Roll 3 attacks.
13, 26, 26.
3 hits, as this bright pink fire arcs out from Tibby's hands. All of the little foamy crabs around the entrance vanish with kerplunks into the water. The exit is now completely clear. As the ghostly oarsmen continue to row, the ship approaches the exit, only about 40 feet away now.
With a flick of his wrist, the electric orbs illuminating the cave fly past Flintbeak, organizing themselves at the mouth of the cave and illuminating the exit. As if diving through the gateway of his own design, Flintbeak then rockets out through the mouth of the cave to see what lies beyond.
As Flintbeak dives out of the cave, Tibby tanking a shower of needles that impact uselessly on her hard metal plate armor. Celestyna diving under the oars, and Snag and Miss Hillsby safe below decks. There is suddenly sunshine and the calm sound of chirping insects. The river before you is dark, black, and sludgy, and much of the plant life around the banks appeared twisted, dry, and dying. But only a few feet off of the banks is a lush forest, immensely peaceful in comparison to the horrific tunnel our party has just exited.
That was bracing.
Let's go again.
Snag comes out of the hatch, yelling down below. Now just stay there!
Sounds good.
The ship moves through this blackened water much more slowly as the oarsmen struggle to push the ship along. Even as the oars dip below the black sludge, it is not disturbed. The ghostly incorporeal form propelling the ship along, but not disturbing any liquid surface. Everybody make a nature check.
15.
21.
23.
25.
Snag, Celestyna, and Flintbeak, all staring out into the forest, see plant life like they have never seen. You all come to the conclusion that much of this land must have gone untouched for an immense amount of time. Celestyna, Flintbeak, at the same time, both of you realize that a few feet within the forest, there is a trail that seems to have been carved away, hacked and slashed with no regard for the sanctity of the nature around them.
Looks like someone beat us here.
Someone who cares not for the forest. Something tells me that will answer many questions.
Moving along the river, you reach a fork. To the right, that black, sludgy river continues. But to the left, there appears to be something stopping the water, which is crystalline and clear, immensely placid, unaffected by the sludge that is bubbling in the river. Ignoring orders, Miss Hillsby does come above deck.
What did I tell you?
It smells terrible down there. We're out of the cave. Everything is safe.
That's what we said before we went into the cave.
Flintbeak peers down at where the water is separated, trying to determine if there's any sort of arcane or magical reasonings behind this.
Make an Arcana check.
Nat 20.
Not only is this a magical effect, but one that you can tell is immensely powerful. Divine magic separates this black sludge from crystalline water that radiates with its own magical aura. As you peer down into the water, you see a wavering face. Make a wisdom saving throw.
14.
You cannot make the form out, but something lifts a wing up towards you, and then the reflection wavers and you only see yourself. Roll an insight check.
Nat 20.
You sense very strongly that while this is strange and maybe a little unnerving, there is no malevolence here.
Now, I'm by no means a beast of soul here, but there is something mighty powerful and maybe even divine down this fork.
Snag leans over the edge and investigates the right path.
Make a nature check.
15.
Here, the black sludge has become so thick that it is more akin to sinking mud than it is water. Were your ship not incorporeal in nature, you would not be able to pass through here.
Well, the trail is very clear. However, divine or not, something repels it, and that is something we can use.
Snag raises a hoofed finger in protest. It has been my unique experience that the easier path is most often the most deadly. I say we go down the bog.
Captain Brand's eyes close and open again, as if he's trying as hard as he can not to fall asleep.
Your cowardice has become tiresome. We know what is beyond. That is our destination, down the trail of sludge. But you see something that could end it all. And still you're afraid.
Snag's mouth shuts so quickly that you hear his teeth clack. He turns to the oarsman and motions down towards the clear water.
Say, Brand, is there any harm in me flying ahead, taking a look at that path that cuts through over there?
Be back in 1 minute, or the word is spoken.
Right. And Flintbeak pushes off towards the track, cutting away from the black water.
As you fly towards that path, just over the bank, make a survival check.
14.
You look down, and while it's difficult to determine why this path was made, you notice that one of your boots fits perfectly within an old footprint. Standard blackjack boots. Soldiers once roamed this path. You notice that this path follows the black sludgy water on and on deeper into the jungle.
Knowing he won't be able to follow and return in the allotted time, Flintbeak veers back towards the ship.
What did you find?
Boot marks. Standard issue. The Queen's put her thumb in this pie already, it would seem.
Celestyna spits on the deck.
We will pluck at that thread in due time. First thing is first.
The ghostly ship continues through clear, placid water. It is calm here. Small fireflies, glowing different colors, flit in front of the ship in a little swarm, and then fly across the river into a different part of the forest. There's an air of sanctity here, and as the boat rolls forward, there is suddenly a much larger pond, in the center of which is a perfectly polished gray stone ball that sits gently, rotating ever so slightly.
Where have you brought us now, boy?
I dunno, Ken. I told them to go down the other path.
Stumbling your way right into a trap. Typical of you, Junior.
As the ship settles, everybody make a perception check.
24.
20.
13.
Nat 20.
Tibby, you notice a little glow towards the front of the boat. Just before the rest of your crew notices it, you run over and see that there is a light just beneath the water. But there's another form wavering in the reflection. Make a wisdom saving throw.
17.
A pale white face, black, beady eyes, feathery gills, but not you, a familiar face. And then the light brightens, the water is disturbed, and something rises out of it. An anglerfish woman.
You see empty eyes, dark sunken, but it looks like there's almost a transparent film of white behind them. Sharp nose, and then a long, almost tendril-like thing coming off their head, attaching to that glowing light. With little bits of teeth peeking out of the side of her mouth, and the way she moves is a slow sway, and then a soft half smile appears.
Who are you?
I am the gatekeeper.
How did you know that face?
You're the one that knows that face. But it's a face long gone, isn't it? Would you like to speak to them? Wait, your name? Feathergill. Tibby. Yes, is that right?
Yes.
Oh, a brother. I see. He's worried as hell about you, Tibby. Her eyelids close for a second, and the light starts to glow a little bit more. It's hard being a twin, isn't it?
Everybody make an insight check.
18.
9.
21.
Flintbeak, Celestyna, for the first time, you hear the real, true sadness behind Tibby's laugh.
Upon seeing this in Tibby, Celestyna approaches. Do you mean harm to her?
I mean no harm, and I would assume none of you mean harm to my gateway either.
Do you know why we are here?
In this wellspring? No, I am curious to ask.
Please. I'd like to hear him.
Look into the water then, Tibby.
Tibby quickly looks over the ship into the water.
At first, the image wavers, and then the light on the anglerfish's head brightens just a touch, and the image solidifies. Fib Feathergill stands on the opposite side of a reflection, peering up at you, though looking down into water of his own. You see a face full of concern, and he speaks, but no sound comes.
I'm sorry you can't hear him, but I can. Do you want to know what he says?
Please. I want to know.
And then the gatekeeper looks up to Tibby. He feels terrible. He died on the adventure to find that treasure. He says it was his carelessness that got him killed. You did nothing. But, and she pauses once more, vengeance will simply lead you aimless and alone. I have one more thing, but it feels rude to say.
I'm sure I can handle it.
He misses your laugh when it was real.
Tibby hangs her head, hiding tears as they roll down her cheeks.
I know there are others, because there are more voices echoing behind me. Come, look into the water, into the gate, to a side you will find yourselves on, sooner or later.
Celestyna looks over at the crying Tibby, and then slowly walks to the water's edge and peers in.
And Celestyna, the second you peer over the surface, you see scores of faces, perhaps 200, all staring up at you. The slain folks of your village look at you with pitying eyes.
Oh, you are a chief.
I was a guardian who failed.
You take responsibility and blame for an Emporian naval officer lying. That is not your failure. None of them blame you. She cups a bit of water in her hand and raises it up to Celestyna. Drink this, please. See and hear through my senses.
Celestyna drinks.
Celestyna then sees through the gatekeeper's senses. She can hear through the gatekeeper's ears. And you start to hear the voices of dozens of people. Voices you knew.
It was the crown who did this to us, not you, little Wozcyk.
I love you, Symington.
My guardian, my captain.
You are not to blame for this. You know that. Anyone who you are protecting on the other side does not know how lucky they are.
We want you to come and join us, if you're ready. The senses and connection shifts back to Celestyna's normal vision.
Tears wick off the fur around Celestyna's eyes. I don't know where to go without this purpose.
The gatekeeper pauses to look into the water.
Well, only you can decide what your papi says. But they feel like you fulfilled it long ago.
Having heard all of this, Snag steps back from the side.
I know exactly where I'm going. I do not need to look.
You might be surprised.
Flintbeak finally speaks up, his arms folded across his chest. No good in looking, really, is there? The dead are dead, they're not coming back.
It's not about them coming back. You stand in front of the gate to where these lost ones are. It is a place of closure, of peace, of sanctity.
I know who I'm gonna see, alright. I don't want to talk to him.
Does that mean you're going to rob him of the opportunity to talk to you?
And for the first time, what seems to be pain fills Flintbeak's eyes. I'm scared to hear what he has to say to me.
Were the others who spoke to these two angry or full of rage? I cannot force you to speak to the dead, but you have to tell them yourself. I cannot take that chance away from them. The choice has always been yours, Egan.
And hearing his real name for the first time in years, Flintbeak moves towards the edge of the boat.
And sees a golden eagle staring up at him.
Hey there, Ozzy.
He says he's sorry he didn't listen to you closer, and he hopes it's obvious, but he misses you.
He knows I'm trying to do right by him, right?
He does, but he hates the suffering you put yourself through.
It doesn't hurt too much anymore. I mean, she made right sure of that, didn't she?
Are you sure you want me to relay that?
Nah, no need, he'll know I'm lying.
He says if the roles were reversed, would you want to watch me suffer?
Flintbeak shakes his head no, but can't bring himself to speak.
He asked me to offer you a place by his side at peace, instead of the looming danger he knows you are headed towards.
Tibby, Celestyna, and Flintbeak make an Arcana check.
14.
24. 12.
Tibby, with these words, you know what's being offered to you. Should you wish, you are now able to pass through this portal peacefully to be with your loved ones.
Oh, you're that kind of gatekeeper.
I am. I am here to protect the passage. Though it takes a lot to keep the Blackwater at bay, especially after those soldiers. It is important to give people like you an opportunity to find peace on a different path.
Captain Brand has been turned away this whole time, slowly counting to himself, holding his pocket watch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And at the mention of the black water and the soldiers, turns around quickly. The black water, the soldiers, how do you keep it at bay? Tell me.
It is my unique ability. I am a conduit for Loon, after all. Those soldiers a year ago came and caused this corruption. And I cannot do a thing about it, because I have my role. But maybe you all have yours too.
Captain Brand, shaking, grips the pocket watch tighter, until an audible crack is heard. So you're telling me you're useless to me?
I suppose so. Because sadly no one came to speak to you. Please, anyone who wishes to get into the water, feel free. This is not going to pull you anywhere you do not want to go. From what the voices have told me, you may be lost, but you are not monsters. And if you close your eyes, you can feel the embrace that you are searching for.
You offer these beasts peace? What do you actually know of monsters? I am sick of standing here and being told I'm the enemy. How many lives have you all taken? Innumerous. But, Captain Brand, you're so cruel in how you say things. The words, they hurt me so. You claimed me as your own. Oh, poor you. Poor murderous beasts who finally found friendship. Is that all it is? Is that all it takes for you to so easily absolve yourselves of sin? Someone to tell you that you're understood. A loved one that you did it for. That can, in one moment, soothe your souls, hug you and kiss you and make it all better. And me, I am the villain. I am the root of all your problems. How convenient for you! Never looking inward to see what you've done. No, when you look inward, you see a smiling face telling you it wasn't your fault. How perfect! So you, gatekeeper, no one came to speak to me, because I know what I've done. And I'm not looking for absolution. I'm looking to live. If you cowards want a way out, just ask me to say the word. I gave you one chance to be a hero. Take it or not, but I will not sit by and watch this farce.
It is interesting you say that.
Gertrude Hillsby moves past all of you, and without a word, clambers up onto the railing and holds out a hand towards the anglerfish.
The gatekeeper's hand comes up and out of the water, and next to it, a larger hand made of water reaches up to Gertrude.
I hope you all find peace.
She is pulled into the water gently, and as she is fully submerged, all of you staring down into the water see Gertrude Hillsby, at first floating beneath water, and then all at once her fur settles, and she smiles and looks up at you, and fades away.
I'll ask one more time. Is there anyone else who wants a different end to their story? I must warn you. Once you go, there are very few reasons for you to come back.
Oh. They'll go when I say they'll go.
Captain Brand, in one swift motion, pulls out his pistol and unloads 3 shots into the anglerfish.
As the shots ring out, the anglerfish woman drops back into the water, and as she sinks below the surface, the light flickers, dims, and goes out. And then there is a bubbling behind you. As all of you turn to the stern of the ship, black, sludgy liquid begins to move down this branch of the river, and slowly around you, this sanctified sight is corrupted. A sickening squelch as a vacuum seal across the top of this lake forms, and the silver orb, made of polished stone in the center, cracks.
Her eyes wild, Tibby reaches forward into the muck as if she were to find her brother there.
Roll a Constitution save.
Dirty 20.
Tibby, you take 12 poison damage and quickly recoil from the toxic surface.
Brand looks over the edge at Tibby and scoffs.
Eclipse.
As the magic word is spoken, there is a beat, and nothing happens. Tibby, as if you have felt a bullet whiz past your shoulder, you understand what has just happened.
Tibby's head swivels on her shoulders, her body now facing Captain Brand. With a quick gesture of her hand, her sword manifests, and Tibby launches forward.
No one's puppet shall I ever be.
I've a proposition for ye creatures on my killing floor, whose bones would soothe my children as they teethe. Ye can keep this grave to dig, or ye can join my hempen jig, where you'll be legendary ere ye live to breathe. So sails up, tails high, get down and let fly, legendary ere we live to breathe. And one of
This has been a Hero Club production, produced by Nick Williams, George Primavera, and Jack Quaid, with associate producers Marty Abbe-Schneider and Dylan McCollum. Voice acting by George Primavera, Nick Williams, Caroline Lux, Lelia Symington, Gabe Greenspan, Dylan McCollum, Gabe Hicks, Marty Abbe-Schneider, Chuck McCollum, and Jackie Emerson. Theme song composed and produced by Matthew McCollum and performed by Dylan McCollum. Swim Swabby written by George Primavera, with solos performed by Ben Doyle, Nick Williams, and Helen Laser. Special thanks to Kevin MacLeod, Ben Doyle, and Matthew McCollum for their amazing music, Mage Hand Press for their genius D&D 5th edition homebrew, Marty Abbe-Schneider for his incredible artwork, and Ali Cantonese, our hero. Follow us on Instagram at Hero Club Podcast, on Twitter at Hero Club Pod, on Twitch at twitch.tv/hero_club, and check out our website, heroclubpodcast.com. Thanks for listening, and welcome to the club.
the ocean to the aviary, sails up, tails high, get down and let fly, legendary air we live to breathe. Sails up, tails high, monster storm, look 'em in the eye. We're legendary air we live to breathe. Even gills had better heed. Sails up, tails high, get down and let fly, legendary air we live to breathe. Sails up, tails high, get down and let fly, legendary air we live to breathe. Sails up, tails high, get down and fly.
This encounter that just now makes our very first encounter worth it. In which I had to spend 3 rounds putting my armor on.
Oh my god.
Yeah, 20 people helped you put on armor for 3 rounds.
They're all dead now.